podcast where we explore success, real success, defined as having a life rich in the things that matter most: happiness, gratitude, contribution, health, and love. We interview people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, careers, ages, etc. But the one thing they have in common is that they have created an extraordinary life for themselves. And through their stories, insights, successes, and failures, you will see that regardless of circumstances, we all have the power to create a life we truly love. I'm your host, Jeff Baeto, and if you're serious about your own personal growth, this is the podcast for you. InJoy Success is dedicated to bringing you the most holistically successful people on the planet, not only to inspire you with their own stories, but to share their secrets on how you can literally create the life of your dreams. So make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss any of our episodes. My guest today is Dr. Greg Pursley. Dr. Greg, or Dr. G as he's known, is a catalyst for personal growth. He shows people how to reach and exceed their goals quickly, all by harnessing the power of their belief systems. He's the creator of Dr. G's personal growth program, author of Fix Your BS, and the owner of PC Medical Centers, an integrated regenerative medical clinic. Dr. G helps motivate people to identify their ideal belief system so that they can take simple, time-saving steps to build the life they want. What I love about Dr. G is how authentic he is. His ability to share his own journey, as well as the wisdom he's garnered along the way, creates the perfect combination of expertise and humanity. He is 100% dedicated to helping as many people as possible understand the role that beliefs play in their lives, and then giving them the tools to choose the belief system that will most support them on their journey. Just a few minutes in his presence, and you will not only feel like you're sitting with an old friend, but you will know at a cellular level that you really can create the life of your dreams. So if you're feeling stuck in some area of your life, or that you're not reaching your full potential, or that you simply want to take your life to the next level, this is the episode for you. It's an absolute honor to have him with us today. Dr. G, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you having me on, man. I really do. And that's a heck of an intro, man. That's fantastic. So I appreciate all the love and support in that intro.
Well, absolutely. It's always just trying to do a little bit of justice to the person that you are. So I've been really looking forward to having you on. So thanks so much for taking the time. And we'd like to jump right in. Can you please share your definition of success?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, success is just movement toward attaining a goal. Success is nothing more than the consistent movement, positive movement toward a goal. There's a lot of people that take success in the financial side, but the most successful people I know have their lives playing at a high level in multiple different areas. And so it's not just a goal. Oh, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be this or that. It's multiple different goals in your life, and it's movement toward the improvement of yourself to attaining those goals. And notice I say it's movement toward, not actually attaining the goal. And that's where a lot of people get messed up, and we'll probably discuss that further as we go.
I think I think that's beautiful. And I do want to kind of ask as a follow-up, when did you kind of get clarity around that? It's a beautiful definition. Was that something you got to early? Was it something that evolved? Was there a moment in time where you're like, this is how I'm defining it and what I'm going to move from now on?
Yeah, that happened over time. It was multiple times where I actually achieved a goal. But there was a very short-lived, celebration of that achievement. But then there was an immediate drop off of, well, now what? And then I had to set another goal and go for it. And so what ended up happening was I developed the habit of putting my happiness in achievement of a goal. So that meant that the moment I reached a goal, the habit of happiness was, well, now I have to reach another goal. And so there was this never ending, I'm never actually happy. I never ever actually felt success. And so in that light, what I realized was that it's not the actual goal, because the goal can change. In the middle of you moving toward a end result or a goal, that goal or end result may change as you move toward it. So if you put your happiness in the end result, the success of that goal, the attainment of that goal, then you don't allow yourself the opportunity to be able to be flexible and change. While you're growing and moving and improving yourself, that end result may go, actually, I don't want that. I thought I wanted it, but actually I don't. And I'm going to move over here, but you're still moving toward a goal. And that's where I think you should develop the habit of happiness and success in the movement toward that achievement.
Okay, so you have this experience, and I think we can all relate to that. Like we have this, I'll be happy when, I'll be successful when. Then we get to some of those things. It's a very short-lived uh, uptick in our feelings, and we immediately have this sense of drop off. And then our pattern is to have to reset a new goal and so on. So you've had that. Was there a moment where you're like, I'm not doing this again? Like I'm not making it just about the end thing. I'm going to really start to be flexible in that I'm moving towards this, but if it changes, I'm going to be cool and I'm going to enjoy the process of. Was there a moment in time where you're like, this is enough, I'm not doing it the old way anymore?
You know, a lot of times I hear people talk about a moment where they were like, "That's it, I'm done." And what I find, I'm very introspective in trying to figure out, look, I understand that my emotions are under my control. They don't control me. A lot of people have the opposite. They're controlled by their emotions. So when they feel frustrated, they're controlled by that frustration. Well, I look into it and I go, well, why am I frustrated? Why am I not feeling complete when I thought the success was going to be where I found the happiness and or the attainment of a goal was where I was going to find success and happiness. And so that happened a few times, and there wasn't a moment. It was more of a, I've got to figure this out. Why am I reaching this goal and yet I'm not fulfilled in that goal achievement? And what I found out is that it was just the wrong information. It was the wrong habit. So I studied for years over different books and audio programs and listening to different people and their perspectives and trying to figure that out. And so there wasn't an aha moment. It was just over time I realized, you know, my life will be way more fulfilling if I take small incremental steps towards understanding myself and towards becoming a better person and building a better life. And what I tell people all the time, I mean, I coach people personally, and what I really get them to understand is that the future is going to happen. It's going to happen. Like, it's coming. And you're either going to end up somewhere you don't want to be, or you're going to end up somewhere you want to be. And so if you develop the right habits and get the right information, you can start developing the future that you want. So then 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, you're sitting in a better place that you're like, man, I'm excited about this place. And I'm happy and I'm fulfilled and I've built this life that I want. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but it's at least more of your design than ending up somewhere, which is where most people end up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And what one of the things that's hitting for me harder with how you're explaining this is, um, so yes, we want the vision of where we want to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in the future. But what just hit for me as you were talking is, if I'm clear on that, then the building towards that is a reward. Like it's,
Right.
and it's not, again, I'm not just waiting until hopefully in 2 years, I really enjoy this experience, which is another version of a goal that I'll be happy when I hit that. But if it's something that is meaningful as a picture, as an image, then every brick that I'm laying on a foundation to build towards that, I don't know, kind of, it feels like there's a release of joy
Yeah.
by taking that step. Is that your experience as well?
Every morning I wake up and I have the vision of what I want, the goals that I have. And a lot of times I'll write those down. I don't do that every morning. Some people say to do that every morning, but at least I have the vision in the picture and I replay that, what that feels like, what it looks like. Every night I look back at my day and I go, what steps did I take toward that? So there's every evening a celebration toward, like, and I look at 5 pillars in my life. And this is in Fix Your BS. This is what I talk about. But the 5 pillars: relationships, relationship with my spouse, my kids, my immediate family, my colleagues, relationships in the community. All of those relationships, they matter. And so did I take the right steps and actions to improve my relationships today, and to build the vision, the goal of having the ideal relationships with each one of those categories? And then I can celebrate that. Man, I did. I was polite and kind with my wife, and I was patient with my kids, and I taught them something today, and I educated them, and I really took the time to understand my employees and to understand their perspective and get them aligned with the vision of the company every single day, because that's what builds. It's like snowball, right? So that's the relationship side. The career side, did I take the steps, any steps? And it can be one. It could be like, because most people focus on what they didn't do. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. And what does that do? That creates panic, it creates stress, it creates all this fear. And then they're down on themselves because of it. And that's a negative spiral. So career, and these are no particular order. This is
Sure.
just five, but career is a major one. Finances, it takes money to do everything. So, money is not the root of all evil. The misuse and the lack of money is the root of all evil. That's what it is. So if I want to help people and want to improve their lives, I need to be able to have the financial means to do that. And so that's just a belief system that I have, that I've developed, because I used to think, oh, money is where, the rich people are mean and greedy and evil. But yet the rich people are the ones that are donating the most money and creating the most foundations. And so I just looked at the facts and went, actually, the wealthy people are the people that are making the biggest difference and the biggest positive impact. And if I'm a positive person and want to make a positive impact, I need money to do that. So finances. Health is another major one. Health, did I take steps? Did I eat right? Did I drink water? Did I exercise? I mean, that's really in reality, that's mostly what health is. And then having the positive mindset. And then finally, the fifth one that I always look at is my faith. Did I do things to improve my faith? And I don't mean faith like belief in God. I mean your faith. What is that to you? It doesn't matter. Is it source energy? Is it God? Is it it doesn't matter. You have to have faith in something, even if you have faith in yourself. I mean, you have to have faith somewhere. And so did I develop that? And so at the end of the day, if I look back and I can go through those 5 categories just before I go to sleep and go, here's the things I did that worked. Here's the things that I did that I could do better. And here's the celebrations I have from the day. Man, I'm going to bed much happier than if I go, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. And I ate like crap today. Blah, 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 blah. Man, give yourself you're human. Give yourself a little grace. So that's just my perspective on how I do it. And that's what Fix Your BS in the book, it just talks about those items, those things.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a workable framework as well, right? So 5 pillars. And I think you mentioned this in your definition of success, but it's not just in one area. And so I think giving people permission just to understand that life is multifaceted and that this is a good 5-pillar framework to start looking at. Like if we're improving, if I'm improving in all 5 of these areas consistently over time, that's a good life, right? And if it's just in one area, then again, it might be lopsided, and that then I'm going to feel it. Maybe if I'm focused all on career, but I'm not focused on my health or on my relationships, then we start to have that deficit, and that's not it either. Like most of us can also relate, like, how come I'm doing so good over here, but it's not, I still don't feel great. And it's because we're probably not giving the attention garnered. Is that accurate? Not giving the...
But you have the wrong information and wrong habits. If you're not getting the result you want, you have the wrong information and you have the wrong habits. It is literally that simple. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, just think about that. I mean, I'm unhappy with this aspect of my life. Okay. So what are the habits that you have every day that get you that result? Because if you're unhappy with the result, all you got to do is change the habits. And how do you change the habits? You get different information.
Can we break that down a little bit? Let's take something, because I'd like to do maybe a harder one. I think let's do a relationship one, because I think health is easy, and we do that often where it's like, okay, well, you're eating the wrong stuff. But
well, most people focus on health and money. Those are the 2 that most people, when they initially talk to me or I work with them, they want to know, they want to lose weight or be more fit, and they want more money. And I'm like, okay, so that's 2 pillars. But, and I've got a great story that we'll dive deeper in this. And after that, I'll tell you a great story about a guy that I knew that had great success in 1 pillar.
Yeah. So perfect. Okay. So if you don't mind, can you start, could you do a scenario in relationships? I would like my relationships. Yeah. You used the word ideal, but I just want to be improving and feel more connected, like the languaging. Yeah.
So I'll give you the framework. So you can use this in any pillar. I mean, we could go through each one, but I'll give you the framework. Number 1, you need to create a vision. Create a vision of what you want it to be like. It's that, I mean, you sit down, you take a moment, you can even write it down. It's better if you write it down, but you write down the ideal scenario. And so if you looked at relationships, I would look at the most important relationship or the closest relationship to you. To me, it's my wife, whoever it is to you. I mean, if you don't have a spouse, if you're whatever, but the first one is my wife. Okay. If I had to rank that from 0 to 10, 10 is freaking amazing. 0 is terrible. Rank it and be honest. You got to be honest. You can't fluff this. It's just an honest thing. There's no emotion attached to it. It's just, it is what it is. So you rank it 0 to 10 and you say, okay, it's a 5. Okay, well, what actions am I currently doing that make it a 5 and not a 10? What could I do to bridge the gap from 5 to 10? Okay, so then you start writing down. And once again, you have to be very honest and very specific. And it's fine. You don't have to be emotional about it. Like, don't beat yourself up. It is what it is. So anyway, and I can say that 800 times, but because people try to get all emotional and they try to justify, and you're like, you don't need to justify. Just write it down. It's just the way it is. And if you want it to improve, you have to know where you are. So, okay, well, or was there, and especially in the relationship with my wife, was there a time where it was a 10? And if it was, what was happening at that time? What were your habits at that time?
There's a reference point.
Right.
That might even, yeah.
Right. So, okay, so there never was a time when it was 10, it was always a 5. Okay, who do you know that has a relationship that is a 10? Because you're going to learn from them. And you're going to start studying that. Is there a book that talks about how to gain a relationship that you want? So you write down the vision of what the end result is, and then you figure out where you are, and then you're going to say, okay, what are the things that I could implement either through my past experiences or through other people's experiences to be able to bridge that gap, and the habits I need to develop in order to start doing that. Then, so those are the positive habits, the things that I do already that develop a great relationship. And then you go to the negative habits, the things that I do that develop a bad relationship. Okay, so what are the things that I do that don't cultivate a 10 out of 10? Oh, well, I take her for granted sometimes. And
so
and
this
what
is
does
a
that look
habitual
like?
thing. It's not,
Right.
it's what am I habitually doing? It's not just I was
Right.
off yesterday, but in general,
Yeah.
I'm taking her for granted. Yeah.
See, your body and your brain will always go to the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is your habits, the day-to-day in and out, what you do on a regular basis. So you can have a moment where, you treated her fantastic, and you can identify that moment and go, ooh, that felt great. And then you can go, but then I reverted back to my old habits. And my old habits were taking for granted. How come you never take out the trash? And how come I'm always one doing dishes? And how come, and I'm berated, and I'm communicating ineffectively, or I'm not looking out for her best interest, or whatever it is. And this is just the first category, the first step. But the framework is the same for all of them. So if I looked at all my relationships and I'm like, look, I have a vision for what I would like those to be like. Then you identify the habits that you have that automatically occur that drive you toward that vision. And then you identify the habits that you have that you have on a regular basis that take you away from that vision. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your bad habit and you're going to identify things that you could do that will move you over into the other section that will drive you toward that vision. And then you, every single day, celebrate the things that you did that moved you in that direction. And then you recreate the vision every single morning because when you recreate the vision in the morning, you're going to automatically start moving yourself in the direction of the habits that need to happen. And this happened to me and my wife in our relationship. We had a lot of stress. We have 2 kids, a 16-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. When our son was born, our daughter was about 2.5, and he was born with dwarfism. And he had a lot of medical complications. And so for 8 years, we focused on keeping him alive, which meant we not focus on relationships or career or finances or faith or health. We focused on keeping him alive. That was it. So all of my 5 pillars were like 2, all of them, And so it was like this shock one day. It was like, I've got to, after he got better to the point where we weren't scared whether he was going to survive or not every day, then it was like, I've got to rebuild these things. And so I started focusing on career and money because I thought that was going to rebuild it. Well, that alienated my wife. It also alienated my faith. It also alienated my health. And so as my career and money started to change and improve, my wife and I's relationship really got worse and started to tank. And so then when I started implementing the system, I started to identify, well, what does my wife really need to feel connected and loved and that she's fulfilled in our relationship? And what she really needed was attention. And she needed to be for me to be attentive to her needs. And in her case, her needs were connection, just being there, being not distracted, and talking about something other than work and money. And and once I found that out, I realized, oh, I have a few habits that are fantastic. And if I just repeat those habits, our relationship will get better. And then I repeated the habits with the career and the finances, and those got better. And then things got easier because of those things. And it just spills over to the next one because of that. But once you identify those things and have this habit of redoing it day after day, you start to realize, and you start to understand your own actions that are driving you in the wrong direction. And that's where the belief systems come in. Because when I talk about information and habits, I'm really talking about belief systems. What do you believe that makes you have the habits you have?
And that's a powerful question, because if we really got that right, like, because there's a lot that's happening underneath the surface for us in terms of most of us not aware of exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We've just been doing it that way for forever.
Yep. And it could be something that you picked up when you were 10 years old.
Right.
And now you're 30 or 40 and you're just doing the same habit because you believe that's what it is. See, the thing that scares me the most is the things that I believe are true that aren't. That's what scares me the most. And so Tony Robbins has a really great question. And the question he has is, what would I have to believe for this to be true? Because people get into habit, they get into these mindsets of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to make the rent this month. Okay, that's just a thought people will have. Okay, so where will that take you? That question, that statement. Am I going to be able to make the rent this month? And then your brain goes, no, you're not, because you don't have enough money. And oh my gosh, if I can't make the rent, then I'm going to move out, have to move out. And then what does that mean? And then people will look at me different, and they just get into this panic state. And now they can't make a decision because they're frozen from all these emotions just coming at them. And so if you stop when you have a statement like that, or a thought that pops into your head, and say, what would I have to believe for this to be true? Well, I'd have to believe that I'm not going to be able to make the rent. Well, has that ever happened? No, I've always been able to make the rent. Okay, so what do I need to take action on in order to make sure that I'm able to make the rent this month? And also, what steps could I take that I'm not in this position again? And then you can write those things down. And if you're honest with yourself, you start to go, oh, that's easy. So I look at it like this. For every moment that you're not taking action toward a specific end result, you are increasing the amount of time it will take to get there. So if you have 100 minutes, let's say, to get an item done, every moment you're distracted away from getting that item done, you're less likely to get it done within that time frame. So if I could say, in the book, I talk about God's rule, and I just call it God's rule because I think it's just the rule. And the rule is only focus on what you want. Only focus on what you want. Never focus on the fear of what might happen, because that doesn't do you any good. It takes away from that momentum. So I only focus on what I want. What do I want? I want the best relationship I can possibly have with my wife. I want the best relationship I can possibly have with my kids. I want the best relationship I can possibly have with my employees and staff. I want the best career that I could possibly have. And what does that look like to me? And I write out my vision on that. I want the best finances I could possibly have. What does that look like to me? Who's already doing it? What steps do I need to take to get there? What faith? What is the best possible, the thing I would like in my faith and my health the same way? And once I start focusing on just those things, it's so easy to get lost in focusing on hundreds of things, on to-dos. But what do you want? What is the end result? And only focus on that, because then your brain actually works as an antenna. People don't realize that. And it'll start picking up things that move you toward whatever you're thinking about on a moment-to-moment basis. What is that? Oh, those are your habits. So that's how it works, man. So
now, this is great. This is great. And I want to so for the idea, and this is one of the things I love about you, is it's the ideas I think we've heard, writing down a vision, doing that, but how you're explaining it. And I want to just ask you to dive into this a little bit more. So what if I know I want better? I do know I want better. I'm going to stay again. I'm going to switch to finances in this case because
Sure.
I think a lot of people are like, if I had $10 million, if I had 100 million, whatever it is, they just pick this weird number,
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily a thoughtful exercise where they say, like, for my finances, I would really like this. Do
Mhm.
you have like a 50% believable, or does it, like, can it be whatever they want? Because do people know what they actually want, or are they just taking some image of what society has said as, like, this is what financial success would look like in a yacht and a Ferrari? And
Yeah.
what do you kind of see, and how do you
Oh,
navigate that
well,
for people to get real, like,
yeah.
for them? So because it's not necessary for all of us to have $100 million to be happy, I would guess. Like, I mean, for me, that's not the case. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, most people pick an arbitrary number, and most of the time it's $1 million. And they've
Yeah.
never thought about what is $1 million. Have you ever written $1 million down? Just 1,000,000,000. How much is $1 million per month? How much is $1 million per week? How much is $1 million per day? They never look at it and actually ask questions about it.
Yeah.
Why did I pick $1 million? Who do I know? So on the financial side, most people, number one, they've never actually looked at a goal that they are working towards attaining. They're hoping is what they're doing.
Yeah.
I hope I get $1 million someday. Okay, well, hope's not going to get you there. Let's be real. I mean, you got to take specific actions. First of all, let's ask them some qualifying questions. Okay, I'm talking about finances specifically. Is there $1 million to be gotten in the world?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%, right? Are there millionaires in the world?
Yes.
Are there millionaires being created today?
Yes.
So is $1 million, let's say a year, is that attainable? Is it possible? Okay. So then the second question is it possible for you?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
a different,
therein lies the, like,
that's a different question.
that's a
So
very different question.
you have to become valuable in order to create enough value in order to attract $1 million. See, that's where people mess up. They stay in what I call a want state. I want $1 million. I want a better job. I want a better career. I want better relationships. But what they don't understand is what they're actually focusing on is the lack. They're focusing on, when they say, I want $1 million, what they're really saying is, I don't have $1 million and I want it. And that's a scarcity lack mindset. It is actually detracting them and making it less likely that they'll ever get to whatever goal they're setting. First of all, in finances, they generally set a goal that is not thought out at all. They just set a number. I need $10 million. Okay, where'd you come up with that? Yeah. So what you have to become better at is asking yourself these questions, because nobody else is going to come save you and miraculously show up and start asking you these questions. So in reality, what kind of income do you actually want? And you have to start asking, okay, well, who's earning that income, and how are they earning that income, and who in my in my career or whatever type of job or whatever type of I'm thinking genre, but you know what I mean, the
Industry
industry, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, whatever industry you're in, okay, who's already earning that money? Because when you look at who's already earning that money, they're doing specific things that are getting them that income. Okay, so if you can define, well, what are they doing? Well, they're doing these things. Great. Do I have the skill set, and am I creating enough value in this earth to be able to create that same, or take those same actions that person's taking in order to create that income? See, that's the way you should think about it. So in reality, what you should do the opposite. You shouldn't say, I want $1 million. You should say, I am aggressively pursuing becoming a person of value that is worth $1 million. And that's a different perspective. That is it's a minute thing, but it is so different and so much more powerful. Yeah. See, because over the last 5 years, that's what I've been doing, which is why you asked me to be on your podcast, which is why I have a book and all this other stuff coming out, because I became a person of value. See, understand, we are not, the world and the universe is not designed to get you what you want. It is designed to get you what you deserve.
Mm.
And so when you think, I want, the universe is going, okay, so you want more scarcity is what you really want, because you're thinking about the things you don't have. You got to think about what the end result is and how you can meet the universe halfway, because it's there, it's available. You just have to take action toward that result. And action is really the key. It's taking action.
That's what I'm getting from what you're sharing is, and again, I think the words I hear often, but what I love about your message and your way of explaining things and your passion around this is, I get every moment that I'm not in action around it, I'm probably defaulting to a past way of being, which is not supporting the new vision of what I want. If I get into action, I'm now telling myself in action, I am this person that's now aggressively pursuing this goal in whatever area that I'm working with, or whether it's aggressive or not, I'm a person moving in the direction of someone, of being deserving of a great relationship, $1 million, a new job, whatever the better health, whatever the thing is. But this idea of being in action around is reinforcing a new belief, or a potentially a better belief.
Yeah, because once you do, let's say you set a financial goal, and you say, look, I'm gonna start earning this much money per month or per year or whatever, and you got to define what that is for you. And how do you define that? Through experiences. That's how you define it. You experience things and you go, oh, this makes sense to me and I like this. But you have to be aware. You can't just go through life bouncing around. You just have to be aware. What do I like? What don't I like? So I can build the life I want. But yeah, so when you do finally attain some goal that you've set, your brain goes, holy crap, that worked. What else can I attain? What else can I create?
Opens up just this giant sense of possibility. Now, a question I want to dive in here, because we did move to finances, and I think that's a pretty big default. Everybody kind of can easily go there. But as you said, kind of as you were dealing with the health challenges with your son and making sure that he was surviving, once he was okay, from a survival standpoint, you were able to look at things, but then you dove into one and it was at the expense of others. And does that happen for how do we make?
So that goes back to the story I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I'm glad we came back.
Yeah, I wanted to get to
okay, so I play guitar and I sing, and for a little while, I was very reactive with trying to earn money quick. And so I actually went down to Nashville a few times, and I was part of a songwriting organization. I got to meet some amazing people during that time. But when I was down there, I met this one guy, and this was in the middle of me trying to develop these 5 pillars and trying to figure out what that meant to me in the process and everything. But so I met this guy, and so he told me this story, and it's the most heart-wrenching story. So he's like, yeah, I was a singer-songwriter, and poured my heart into it and toured for a long time and did all these things and met some great people, and and ended up getting married, and I had a few kids, and da. Well, I was talking to him, and when I was talking to him, he was about 63 or so years old. Okay. He goes, yeah, man, I recently, I said, well, what kind of things, what number one songs have you had? And, what awards have you won? This first thing you're wanting to ask these guys, like, you've been at this thing for 40 years. He goes, yeah, man, I won the Lifetime Achievement Award. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. That's cool. He goes, yeah, let me tell you about that. He's like, yeah, I went and I got invited and won the Lifetime Achievement Award, and I got to do a speech in front of everybody. And he goes, afterwards, I got back in my car and I drove home and I put it in the middle of my big table in my big house. And I was out of breath because I was, overweight, and it was a long night, and I had nobody in my house, and I was all alone. And there I was sitting there with my big award, my Lifetime Achievement Award. I had no relationships. He said, my kids never came around. My wife had divorced me, and I put everything into the career bucket, everything. He had no relationships. Even the people that were, he gave a speech in front of were not close. They were just people, And so you got to think about that. I talk about in the book, death is a great teacher, meaning look back at your life, and if you imagine you're on your deathbed and you look back at your life and you think, man, I wish I would have, I wish I could have, I wish I should have. Because I have people that tell me that all the time. Man, I really wish I would have wrote a book. Okay. If you have that thought, that means you have a book in you. That's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to take action toward creating that book. So you want to, Les Brown talks about that. You want to die with all these people of who you could have been and all the dreams that could have been dying with you, all the things that you could have created and you didn't because you were afraid of how people might look at you, or you were afraid of what if it doesn't work out, or you were afraid you wouldn't complete it. So you just took that seed and you just buried it and threw it away and killed it. Like that's the perspective you got to have on life, because so many people get caught up in the, oh man, what if it doesn't go right? You know what? It probably won't.
Yeah. And
who cares?
Who
Okay.
cares? And this is, I want to wrap this up, wrap this around, because what you led with and pointed us in the direction of is success is the movement towards, not the thing.
Right.
It's not the thing. And if we really get that, then we no longer have the, well, what if it doesn't work out? It doesn't matter, to your point, because I'm moving in the direction, and that movement is creative, which gives me the sense of possibility, because whether I write the book and it goes nowhere, whether I don't finish the book because that's not what I want to do, doesn't matter. But I was in creation, which is now a message to me that I'm a creator. That's what I'm hearing.
You're exactly. I'm taking action. I'm moving, and when things don't go right, it's okay, because all you have to do is ask yourself, okay, what can I learn from this? That's one of my favorite questions. When something is going wrong, that I'm like, I don't like how this is. Well, you just ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And what happens is, if you get the habit of what can I learn from this when things go wrong, or when things are not like, when I say go wrong, what I mean is they're not like you want them to be.
Yeah, it's not the image that you had of everything perfectly working out. Yeah.
Right. Tony Robbins actually talks about that. He goes, the secret to happiness is pretty simple. It's when your blueprint, he calls it your BP, equals your LC, your life condition. When your blueprint equals your life condition, the life that you're, the condition of the thing that you want, it is how it is, equals how you thought it would be. That's when you're happy. It's that simple. So when you're unhappy with something, you go, okay, well, what can I learn from this? And then do I change my blueprint of the way which is your belief system, the way I thought it should be, or do I change my life condition? One of the two. That's all you got to do.
And I also really like the flexibility there, because I think a lot of times that we say, well, it must be me that's doing something wrong because my blueprint is obviously right. Like we don't necessarily, I'm feeling like maybe I haven't always said, well, the blueprint, do I really want that? And then go back into the questioning stage of, is that blueprint exactly right? Or is my living condition, is my life condition right now actually closer to what I wanted than what the blueprint was? And I can adjust this side of the equation, right? Would be amazing, because I think that cognitive dissonance sometimes is, but I'm still not where I thought I should be. But then upon this analysis, I am where I am. And like, if I was actually interviewing me, boy, I really am grateful for all this stuff, and this is beautiful. And the only reason I'm not feeling that as intensely as I could is because I'm putting it against a blueprint that I haven't even really considered in a while as to whether or not that's the blueprint for me. Yeah.
Right. And I think of things as filters, instead of, when people are really controlled by their emotional reactions, because that's their habit of being controlled. Like their emotions pop up and then they freak out and they just go where their emotions want to take them. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. When you go with your emotions, you are a slave to those emotions. And then you become a slave to other people because they can trigger your emotions, and you go along with them. So, it's such a profound thing, but it seems so simple, but it just takes time of having that moment of when you feel an emotion coming, of going, why am I having this emotion? Do I really want to go down that path? And start asking yourself questions. And because when you start answering them, you're like, I'm having it because this person said something. Okay, well, does that person saying something mean anything to me? Right? Probably what's happening is that person has some issue that they're dealing with that has nothing to do with you. But we make things so personal. It's all about me. It's like, it's not about you most of the time.
But we do that. I think there isn't, I mean, again, some evolved beings, but most of us are living on a daily basis. We don't have to think back very far to come to a situation where someone said something, regardless of what was going on in their life, we made it mean something and it triggered us. And so What you're saying, what I hear you saying is it's possible to pause there. I just got triggered. This happened. And start asking, do this internal questioning to figure out, one, does it merit a reaction? Two, is this like, what if I
Right.
chose, and all of a sudden in there lies some freedom that maybe we didn't know we had.
Well, when you're in control, when you feel more in control, you feel more certain. So if you're out of control, you feel uncertain. And when you're uncertain and out of control, you're scared all the time.
So, because if I'm moved by my emotions, which other people can trigger, I'm out of control. By definition, I'm no longer in control.
Right. And when you're out of control, you're scared.
Naturally going to be in
at any
fear.
moment, at any moment, anything could happen that's going to trigger an emotion that I'm a slave to, that just takes me wherever it wants to go.
You know, what I love about this way of positioning it is, I'm hoping everybody's getting this, is we don't want to be in fear. Everybody gets that. We can all agree that we don't want to be in fear. Taking the time and building the habits to get our emotions to be a guidepost, a signal system, but not something that runs our lives or that we're being influenced 100%. That's the end of that. Doing the work creates less fear and ultimately more, you said certainty, was that the word? And more confidence, more certainty?
Yeah, more certainty.
That's
the more certain you are
structure.
about, right. That's it. And that is literally a belief system and habit. That's literally those things. And how do you get that? Different information. So what I always teach people is, look, your past is like a filter, right? So the the things you've experienced in your past, your brain, which is a very, it doesn't like to waste energy. Your body does not like to waste energy. So it will connect things. This equals that, okay? And so your past, you've had a whole lifetime of this equals that, whole lifetime of them. And when your brain notices something that is similar to something that has happened in the past, then you will immediately connect it with whatever emotion was in that moment. So it could be a happy, it could be a sad, which is why people go on bipolar. Well, you maybe, but you're probably not bipolar in the aspect of like a physical, a chemical imbalance. You're probably bipolar in the fact that you have no control over your emotions, which is a different perspective of that. If you start to take responsibility and go, okay, well, what is making me feel depressed? Well, it's probably because you don't feel like you're in control of anything, which makes you just feel out of control all the time and scared. And then you're just like, oh, nothing's ever going to change and nothing's ever going to get better. Well, if you say that and believe it, guess what? Nothing is ever going to change or get better. You have to look for in the moment. When I used to hear that saying, there's a silver lining in every cloud. And I didn't understand it until I got older and really started to understand this process. Because what they're really saying is that there's something to learn in every single moment. And if you have if you take responsibility of learning that thing, then the next time something like that comes about, you will have an answer for it and you will feel more in control year after year after year. And so when we look at our past, a moment that happens right now is just that. It is a moment. It is a moment. It is something occurs. It is an occurrence. You're the one that puts the emotion into it. Does that make sense? Like a thing happens, you're the one that puts the emotion into it, which is why two people can have different perspective about the same thing. Right.
Yeah,
one person's like, oh, that's great. And one person's like, that's terrible. A sporting event is a great demonstration of that. You know, you have two different teams and there's people rooting for one team and two people rooting for another team. And then this team loses and these people are pissed off and this team wins and these people are happy. Why?
That's a genius analogy.
Because
right?
of their upbringing, because of their past, because of something that they connected that this team needs to win, and that's good.
We're assigning meaning to the occurrences that are happening.
And how did we assign that meaning? From our past, from the filter of our past. I grew up in St. Louis, therefore I like the St. Louis Cardinals, and the St. Louis Cardinals win and it makes me happy. Why? Because of so the same thing happens though in every aspect of your life. So if you start analyzing the things that, trigger, that's a word nowadays, trigger my, whatever, but I'm triggered. Well, you're triggered because you have no control of your emotion. That's really what it is. So take responsibility and start asking yourself, why am I having this emotion? What is causing that? And what in my past might have brought that about? Because you can time travel, man. You can go back into the past and go, well, let me reanalyze that. For instance, my dad, when I was growing up, he was doing the best he could, but he was very negative in the fact that nothing was ever good enough. Okay, so into my early 20s, I had really very little self-worth. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I deserved love. I didn't think I was smart enough. I just wasn't enough ever. And until I met my wife, and my wife was like, if you written your resume on paper, it looks pretty awesome. And then it took me probably a decade to really understand that I was a person of value and I was improving. Now, I can look back and be pissed off at my dad about that, because I was for a while. But when I reanalyzed it and time traveled back there and went, he was doing the best he could with what he had. His dad was an alcoholic, just beat the kids and whatever, just a terrible guy. So the fact that he even turned out remotely good is a positive.
A huge leap forward. Yep.
He was doing the best he could, trying to raise me to be the best person I could be. So I could be pissed off at him, or I could have gratitude that he didn't beat me on a regular basis, and that there was a lot of positivity there. So gratitude is what you should look back for. And then it changes your perspective. Now my dad and my relationship's great. He understands me, I understand him, when it could have been terrible forever.
Right. There's healing. I mean, I feel like that's a great example, because a lot of us are going to be able to relate to that with someone in our family, where it's just, it's not, we are holding on to something that we made mean not good from a long time ago, and that's just carried forward. But this reflection piece and taking the gratitudes, whether it's better than it could have been, right? Didn't beat me, or some of the qualities that you do have, like this ability to be in action, right? Like a perfectionist or someone that always said you could have done better. Now you're asking, well, one of the questions you're encouraging us, well, how could I have done this better? Right? But your energy around that is very soft and inviting, right? Like maybe that's what you've changed, but the energetic, but the question itself, maybe your dad had a place in actually saying, well, he was training me the entire time to continue to look for ways that I could. Yeah.
Well, the reality is I like who I am today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If he wasn't like he was, I wouldn't be who I am.
That's true.
And so I'm thankful for that, instead of being angry and pissed off at the other things. So that's the way I look at it. And it has literally just become a habit of retrospection, introspection, and then projection into the future. I'm going to use that, man. I just came up with that. That's good.
Yeah,
Retrospection, introspection, and projection. Yeah, that's good.
Write that down.
I'm already writing that.
No, it's very true. And the power, like I hope everybody's getting this, listening to Dr. Greg, like the power that we have and the potential that we have inside to be able to have retrospection, to have introspection, to be able to project into the future. Like that's all this, the creative power that we are often not aware that we have and we hold, or we're not nurturing to the extent that we can literally take anything in our life, any area of our life, any aspect of our life, and start to create in a new direction right now. Like these are, that's what I love about, I love about all your work and how you take something like creating the life of our dreams, but it's this, here's what you do today. Like, this in the morning vision, that's doable. What do I want? End of the night, celebrate some wins. This went well, like good for me. I'm directionally going. A couple things I could have learned, but let's go. That was a pretty good day. Let's do it again tomorrow. And that's doable. We can all do that from wherever we are right now.
And what's great about it is there's so many people out there that are, hey, you need to do this routine, exact routine, And what I always teach people is you need to figure out your routine, and you figure out your routine through other people's experiences and through your own experience. So what I mean by that is, Ed Milet has a ridiculous morning routine. I mean, what he does, he wakes up and does certain things. He drinks water. He doesn't get on his phone. He whatever. And so I tried that for a few months. And Tony Robbins has a routine where he does certain things. And I mean, I can name dozens of people that I've listened to about their routine. And Jesse Itzler has his routine, and he only eats fruit until noon and whatever. And so my point is that certain aspects of each one of those people that I've listened to and learned from, I have certain aspects of their routine that matched and worked for me, but I didn't adopt their exact routine. And so a lot of people try to adopt something. They're like, man, this is so uncomfortable, and I just hate certain things. Okay, then take the things you like and start using them, because those are the things that match you, who you are. And take the things you don't like and go, okay, well, that doesn't really work for me, and throw it out. And it's okay to do that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about earlier was, in the past, people conclude things. And when they conclude things, what that really means is that when I go, this equals that, remember I was talking about, that's what that is. That's a conclusion. This is the way it is. There's nothing that's going to change it. Like, well, is that true? Because it might be just true to you. It doesn't mean it's reality. It just means when you look at that retrospection, all you have to do is ask questions. And once again, I'll reference Tony Robbins. He goes, look, questions are the answer. If you ask the right questions enough times, you will get an answer out of it. And I don't mean like berate yourself with questions. I mean, cultivate your questions to where you're actually asking good ones. And a really great example, going back to like weight loss. Well, how come I can never lose weight? Well, that's a question, but it's a terrible question, because the answer is going to be because you eat like crap and you never work out. Okay, so how can I lose weight, and how can I create a vision of what my body needs to look like? And how can I get to that vision in the most enjoyable way possible? Now, that's a much better question with a much better answer, right? So that's how people are they're so new to this process and this thought process that it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. So people that are listening to this, re-listen to it 2 or 3 times and just pull out certain things and start developing your vision for the future. And I'll close with this really great story, because I was working with a guy talking about, people that have concluded things. And I was working with this guy, and he's like, man, I said, well, create the vision. And he wrote his vision out. And so what I do is I take the vision and I start asking questions about everything they have in it. Because you want to be as specific as possible, and you want to make it real. You want to make it like it's actually happening. You shut your eyes and you envision it. And I said, I want a Ferrari on his vision. And I said, why do you want a Ferrari? Oh, I've always wanted a Ferrari. I didn't answer the question. Just because you've always wanted it doesn't tell me why.
Yeah.
I said, so why do you want it? And he's like, oh man, when I was a kid, I had this Ferrari poster that I got when I had this book fair, and I had it on my wall and I used to stare at it. And it was just so beautiful and whatever. And I said, have you ever touched a Ferrari? He's like, no. I said, have you ever ridden in a Ferrari? Have you ever been around a Ferrari? Have you ever been close enough to hear one? No. I said, you need to experience what you wrote down. Go to a Ferrari dealership, check one out, touch the leather, experience. That's what life is about. So he goes and does that. And he comes back, and the next visit we had, he goes, I said, so how'd the Ferrari visit? He goes, it's not what I thought it would be. And that's what most people end up. They end up at a goal, and it's not what they thought it would be, because they just kept pushing toward the goal, because they thought the goal was the success, was the happiness, the attainment of it, when it's not. It's the process. I said, did you enjoy your visit? He goes, yeah, that's the win.
Bam.
You enjoyed the visit to the Ferrari dealership. And I was like, and what did you learn? He goes, I learned I like Aston Martins.
I was going to say, and then there's a learning that comes out of that, and a clarification. Right. Now there's more certainty, and now there's more juice around something that is clearer. That's beautiful. I want to respect your time. We're going to head into the home stretch. Dr. Greg, you're awesome. Where's the best place for people to get more of you, to find you, the book, and all the other stuff that you offer?
Go to fixyourbs.com. That's the easiest. The book's coming out in about a month. We want as many people to get it and implement and take action. I always tell people, don't buy the book if you're not going to read it and take action. There's no purpose of you buying the book and putting it on your shelf to go, look, I got Dr. G's book. Who cares? Read the book and take action on the things I'm talking about, because all this stuff is in that book. So yeah, go to fixyourbs.com. And I think we're going to be doing a free 3 thing there. You can just type your email in and we'll give you a free worksheet, that sort of thing, I'm sure. But the point is, man, I'm here to help people. Financially, this is not a financial thing. I don't need to sell millions of books. Yeah. I want to sell millions of books because it's going to make an impact. And what people are going to start to realize, that when they start to get into this, that most people are going to focus on the I want to lose weight or be healthier, and they're going to focus on the money. That's just what always comes out. Sure. And what most people are going to figure out is that once you get to a certain level of success, which is really who you become, all of a sudden it's not about money anymore. It's about reaching people, to help people, to make a bigger impact. And when you start thinking and focusing on how can I make a bigger impact, guess what happens? You become richer than you ever could have imagined.
Yeah. it's not its own goal. And that's beautiful. I think, yeah,
It's
that's
a
gonna land.
result. It's a result.
Yeah.
And so if you're focusing on, I want more money, it won't happen. That is not the way. You are projecting lack. You need to project abundance, and abundance is, how can I help as many people as I possibly can? And that's where the abundance mindset comes from. And then guess what happens? All of a sudden money just starts flowing in that you're like, where was all this when I was in such stress? Well, when you're in such stress, guess what? You're going to project and get more stress. That's the way that works.
Oh man. All right. In a moment, I'm going to ask you if you have any final words, but before I do that, I just want to thank you for joining us today. As I mentioned, I was super excited to have you on. And more than that, Dr. G, I just want to tell you, like, I'm really grateful that you are who you are in the world, providing an example, living your life the way that you're living it, and then saying yes to a big mission. I know you want to help millions of people, and you're on your way to doing that. And it's just really powerful when we see people, meet people, sit in the presence of people who are, have said yes to that life of service and really are living by example, like you're putting into practice. You've been doing this, and now it's about sharing the wisdom, giving people the tools. So just really beautiful. Thanks for being you. Any final words for our audience?
I just appreciate you, Jeff, for having me on and asking me to do this, because it helps to reach more people, and the more people we can reach, the more people start to change their mindset and start to analyze their belief systems, the more likely it is that we'll start to have a positive impact throughout the world. And the more people have certainty, the more likely that's going to happen. So I guess my final thought would be, the real answer is gratitude. Is really gratitude and abundance really go hand in hand. And so start looking at things in your life, just the smallest things that you can have gratitude for. A great example is like when let's say you're eating eggs and you have table salt and you're dumping table salt. Think about the process that had to occur and the amount of people that had to come together to create this little thing of table salt in order for you to just dump it on your eggs. When you have that granular, that understanding of gratitude, and you start to really understand and feel different about life. I'm grateful for the smallest things. You send me into the woods with a hatchet, it's going to take me a long time to create a computer and send an email. Like, it's not going to happen because I don't know how to do all that, right? So I'm grateful for the people and the processes and the time I live in, and the car that I drive and the roads that are paved that I didn't have to work on, and all this stuff. And you start, I'm grateful, grateful. And before you know it, things just start to flow to you. And you're just like, you're in this grateful state of emotion. And that's where you really want to live. So beautiful. I'm grateful for you having me on here, Jeff. I appreciate you, and look forward to working with you in the future.
That's awesome. So thank you so much. And thanks to all of you who are with us week in and week out. I'm Jeff Bayeto, your host, reminding you that you are awesome and that the world is a better place with you in it, and that you are absolutely designed to be enjoying success. Thank you. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you, Dr. G. That was awesome, man.